Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Bill 46 is before the House, an act to amend the Electricity Act, and it will enable MB Power to sell a power plant or a financial stake in a power plant that it currently owns. When the Graham Liberal government tried to sell MB Power's power plants the last time, there was overwhelming public opposition and a concerted campaign by the Conservatives' official opposition to the day to stop the sale. Mr. Speaker, these are public assets owned by our public utility. Can the minister responsible for NB Power explain what advantage he sees to ratepayers to have these publicly owned power plants privatized or partially privatized?
Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Development.
Mr. Speaker, to the member opposite, let's do a little bit of a history lesson about NB Power and possible sales and the conversations that have taken place. Yes, indeed, that was a controversial subject that happened about 13, 14 years ago. I remember it well. It was a project that was embarked upon very top-down, driven by the province imposing upon the utility to do something, to sell the utility. This is in response to the utility coming to government saying, this is what we need to expand partnerships so that we can perform at a much higher level. That is apples and oranges. There's no comparison between the two, and to do so is rather disingenuous. What we are doing and what we have done for 6 years is tell the utility, instead of forcing upon you political mandates, tell us what you need to perform at a high level. And we have shown that over and over again, that the utility is giving us the roadmap to get their results. And this is no different, and the province will benefit because of it.
Thank you. Member for Fredericton-South, Leader of Party.
Mr. Speaker, Bill 46 explicitly requires the sale or partial sale of a power plant to be considered prudent, and the costs and expenses incurred to be considered prudent and necessary. This means there can be no oversight of these sales by the Energy and Utilities Board to determine if they are in the economic interest of New Brunswickers, because the law says the expenditures are prudent and necessary, whether they actually are or not. Mr. Speaker, oversight of NB Power's financial transactions by the EUB, NB Power's economic regulator, is essential to protect the economic interests of New Brunswickers. Why has the minister responsible for NB Power introduced a bill that will shield the sale of our power plants, or a portion of those power plants, from review and approval by the Energy and Utilities Board?
Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Development.
Mr. Speaker, to the member opposite, it's easy to answer that question because we're not. We absolutely are not shielding any of these operations from the EUB. If the member opposite would talk a little bit about the process that the utility goes through, they go in front of the EUB to discuss the financial implications of what they've done to afford them the ability to get a rate increase. If the utility is not operating in a financially prudent fashion, as the member opposite speaks about, they will not get approved for the rate increase. There's checks and balances and accountability woven into this system to ensure that the EUB's oversight still is there and maintained and required to approve any rate increase that would come forward as a result of the utilities asking. You know, I would really like us to look at something that can move the utility forward, uncouple them from political interference, and benefit New Brunswickers. How about we do that for a change?
The member for Fredericton-South and Leader of Party.
Mr. Speaker, not only are there no safeguards in this bill to ensure that the sale of a power plant or a part of a power plant is in the interests of the ratepayers, but it goes further by giving Cabinet a blank check to exempt the transfer of power plants, liabilities, rights and obligations of NB Power, a subsidiary or an affiliate, to a corporation from any provincial laws or provisions of provincial laws it chooses to exempt them from. Mr. Speaker, this could demolish any legal safeguards that exist to protect the public interest if a private or publicly traded corporation were to take over NB Power's power plants, power lines, or the public utilities' rights and obligations. That's written into the bill. The business of our public utility, Mr. Speaker, is the business of the people of this province. So why is the minister trying to get a bill passed that could put NB Power's money deals with corporations outside the law?
Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Development.
Mr. Speaker, to the member opposite, I really appreciate an opportunity to discuss this. In economic policy today, we're going to be able to dig into this at length, but what we're talking about is a bill that provides yet another protection for New Brunswickers. What he's speaking about is outside organizations having a role in the regulatory reform or regulatory oversight of this. Now, if we're talking about partnering with organizations and entities outside of the province of New Brunswick, do we want to be subject to their regulatory bodies having the decision-making process? No, we want to have the ability to have third parties be able to provide regulatory oversight recommendations so that we're getting objective information. Whether it be this, whether it be the other Electricity Act changes that we've made, we have done so in response to a utility saying, government, you have messed with us in the past, please allow us to do what we can do, and that's run our business, and we'll be better.